All right, I have pressed record. We'll go into like a soft intro, and then we will start the show.
You always look at me for these, and it makes me nervous.
But you're in the room with me. I feel like
I don't know what you're going to say.
I never know what I'm going to say for 9 out of 10 of them. Normally, it's just like off the cuff, whatever we think about. Right now, I'm thinking about, how Derek hasn't been in a park since he was a fetus out on the West Coast. So
that is a true fact. True fact.
We got to get him out there. Disneyland is special. We got to get him out there.
I know. And I hear people say it all the time. I just think emotionally, I don't know if I could handle the fact that the castle is so small, because I see people comment on it all the time that have only been to Disney World, and they get there and their face is like, hold on, that's not it, is it? That's the castle? So I don't know if emotionally I'm prepared to handle that.
Well, based off of what you said a couple minutes ago, probably physically not either. You spent 3 hours in the park the other day, and you're still hurting from it.
You don't understand. It was Animal Kingdom. It's summertime in Florida. It was 176 degrees. That's what my phone said. So it was unbearably hot. But we had a great, amazing 3 hours. So I will never complain about being able to go to a park for 3 hours.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I am your host, Paul Krieger, joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
We've got Senior Sales Associate for the DVC Resale Market, Derek DeBoer, with us.
Woo, yes. Now it's only 150 degrees. Hey, now. Happy Monday, everybody.
Our favorite friend, Jeff Haslam.
The Jeff Haslam. Wow, that's new. That should be forever.
I don't know what comes out of my mouth. I really don't think when I talk, and I should probably think harder when I do. And someone that I peer pressured into joining along for the ride this week, we've got Carrie Crevel joining us. How are you, Carrie?
Hello, doing well. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you. For those of you that have not met Carrie, Carrie is actually one of our newest contributors on DVCfan.com. And I said, hey, why not join us for one of our member spotlights? Because we're a fun group to hang out with. Although, based off of our conversation over the five minutes that you've been here, you probably want to run in the other direction.
Well, you should.
I'm chained to the chair, so here.
But we're happy to have you, Carrie. Carrie is actually out on the West Coast, so if you wonder how we got to West Coast, Derek, Fetus, that's how we got there in our pre-show earlier. But Carrie is actually out in the California area. I'm going to call her basically kind of our West Coast DVC fan correspondent moving forward, because look, you have more official title than Jeff has, and Jeff's been here for years now.
Yeah. Jeff just has the in front of his name. Just the. That's it.
And that happened today. So
many of you are probably wondering where our dear friend Panda is at. Again, we announced on previous shows that some of these early shows that we film, he's not joining us for more recently because of his work schedule. So it's very possible he may jump in near the end. He may not. He may surprise us. We'll find out. But that is where Panda is, and we will see him for more shows in the future. But today, Carrie, it's all about you, and we are going to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more and why you became a Disney Vacation Club member. And I think that's the best place to start. Before I forget, this show and all of our DVC fan content is brought to you by the world of DVC. DVC Resale Market, where you can buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract. Monera Financial, who will assist in financing that DVC resale contract purchase. DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, or rent out your own points. And Unlocked Magic, where you can get discounts on Walt Disney World tickets and Universal Orlando tickets. And they just recently added Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party tickets for 10% off.
Which is better than the DVC or AP discount.
Yeah.
And it's on any date.
At any single party date.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Definitely want to check that out. Unlockedmagic.com/DVC fan. All right, I got all that out of my system. I can take a deep breath. We're good. Carrie, it's again so great to have you here. Carrie, I feel like bamboozled me a little bit because I noticed her commenting a lot in Disboards and in the DVC fan Facebook group, and I came out to her and I said, hey, I think you would be great as a contributor on DVC fan. Are you interested? And she was like, yeah, sure. Have you ever written before? Not really. And so I showed her around WordPress a little bit. The first 3 articles that you have written, Carrie, are just like textbook perfect. Like everything's great. So you're an alias writer for someone, and I'm going to figure it out one of these days.
Thank you, Paul. I swear I am not. I think I'm just really passionate about the subject. So it's great. It's great to be contributing. I'm excited to keep going.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, go ahead, Derek. Yep.
No, I was just going to say that I think, and you can edit this out if I'm wrong, but I think what was Carrie like involved early on with one time she got one of the remodeled rooms or something, and she helped you with taking pictures of a remodeled room? Because I specifically remember, I don't know what resort it was, but I remember you giving a shout out to Carrie, and I'm wondering, was that when you guys maybe first met each other or got connected? I can't recall.
So I was at the D23 Expo last year and went to the DVC booth and noticed there were there were concept photos of the Island Tower.
Yes.
And I think I posted those, and then Paul reached out and used them. And then it was really that. We just talked off and on over the last few months. That was probably the first time.
If we're going to be brutally honest, part of that is on me because I think I originally reached out to Carrie late last fall, and then we did this whole crazy thing called moving and buying a new house and all kinds of other stuff, and the poly opened and everything. And I think, Carrie, I sent you a message like in January, February, and I was like, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball on moving this forward. Let's revisit the conversation. And so, yeah. Derek, you remember things better than the rest of us. So never question your mental age, just question your theme park age.
Anyway, back to California, Carrie.
Carrie, tell us a little bit about yourself, your Disney journey, and what kind of brought you to Disney Vacation Club.
Sure. So I grew up in Southern California. I grew up really using Disneyland as my mall, for lack of a better phrase. That's where we went to Disneyland back when annual passes were cheap, and that's where we hung out after school every day. So I grew up kind of with Disney in my DNA, in my blood, all the way through. I ended up moving to the UK for a few years after college. I married a Brit. And then when we moved back to the United States, we started resuming our trips to Disney World. And we started going, right? Like so many of us do. We started going year after year. And I had previously thought about DVC when I was very young, when I was like 19 or 20, was not financially in the cards for me at that point. I was just getting my life together. But we revisited it a few years ago. And then I like to say it's like a tale of three different visits. We decided to go to Aulani, and we paid cash for a studio ocean view room over New Year's. That was $1,100 a night.
Sorry, we're all just going to laugh at that one for a second. $1,100 a night.
A night.
11.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. So we got there, and I fell in love, right? Anyone who's been to Aulani, you love, it's the most special place on earth. It is my favorite DVC resort. Got there, and I said, okay, how am I going to get back here? Because splashing the cash, I don't have $1,100 over and over and over again for a studio. So we toured, tried hard to convince my husband, and he wanted to wait. He wanted to think about it. And so we then 11 months later did a trip to Walt Disney World, and we visited the Riviera. And I have an 8-year-old son who at the time was 7, and he said, we were at sunset, overlooking the lake at Riviera, right at Caribbean Beach. And he sighed and said, "Mom, this is the life. Like, thank you so much for giving me this great life." And at that point I was like, okay, like we have to buy DVC. Like he's so appreciative of even this one trip. And I know we're going to be back. And then the third trip actually happened only about a month later. I flew back to Florida for surgery. There's a specialist in Tampa who had something, who was the world's best at the condition that I had. And I decided to recover at Saratoga Springs. And unfortunately, the surgery wasn't successful. So I was processing a lot of grief, a lot of disappointment around that, while overlooking the grounds of Saratoga Springs. And I just thought to myself, like, life is way too short to continue to analyze and try to make the numbers work just right. We don't know what life has in store for us. So that's it. We're doing it. And I remember texting my husband and being like, get ready for the sales pitch when I get home. We're going to do this. We're going to find out a way to make this work. And then 2 PowerPoint presentations later, I was able to convince him that this is what we were going to do. And it's been a great ride since.
Aww,
that's such an incredible story. Yeah.
And the best part about that story is that Paul was wondering, how is Carrie such a good writer? She had to do 2 PowerPoint presentations to convince her husband to buy DVC. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, and you read my mind, because I was going to ask if Carrie still had those PowerPoint presentations, because I think she could probably sell them to people, because we see people in the group all the time that are like, how do I convince my significant other to buy DVC, please?
That's
a great idea for an article, actually. Yeah, happy to help anyone who has reluctant spouses out there. My husband is a numbers guy, so I had to make the numbers work, whereas I'm more of the heart, and so we're a great team, but it took some convincing. Now we'll get to this maybe, but now we're in the add-on-itis phase of our journey, so I'm back to trying to convince him that that's the next financial move we need to make.
Oh, so there will be another PowerPoint presentation in the near future. Perfect. Okay.
For sure. You're probably with an Excel spreadsheet and other things.
We should do it as a live stream. And
I was literally just going to say that.
We'll do it as a live stream and put the pressure on him on the show.
Like one of the ones where you have like the reaction in the corner. So like he has to watch it and you have to watch him. I like it.
And then we'll bring the closer in, Derek. Bring the big closer in at the end to seal the deal.
And then you could have all the super fans donate money that could go towards the down payment. Like, here's $10, here's $20. It's done.
This show's written itself.
Love it.
Okay, so Carrie, tell us, what is your home resort? I feel like you have more than one.
I do. So part of the sales pitch to my husband was making the numbers work, right? And so I knew that we wanted to own a minimum of 150 direct points to get those member benefits. Because we live so close to Disneyland, we're in that lounge twice a month, maybe sometimes more. And I know that, that can go away. That's not forever, but I knew we wanted a minimum of 150 direct points. I also knew that there was no way I was going to convince my husband mathematically to do more than the minimum direct points, because he is the numbers guy and sees DVC for the value that it is. And so we chose to buy 100 points at Bay Lake, and then we did 153 points at Riviera. We ended up buying a favorite week contract for week 7 Resort View Studio at Riviera. So Riviera and Bay Lake Tower are our 2 home resorts.
Yep, for sure.
So how often do you go to Aulani? Since you said that was your favorite.
Okay. So we try to go to Aulani about once a year. I would love to go more often because it is such an easy flight, relatively easy flight for us from the West Coast. But we also have a lot of other places we want to visit. We also love Walt Disney World. So right now we're going about once a year to Aulani.
Okay, so as someone who goes to Aulani once a year and you don't own there, what advice do you have for members trying to book at the 7-month window there?
We get that question all the time.
We get that question, all the time.
Sure. So I think the first thing is really just to be flexible with your travel time, and then be flexible with the type of room that you're looking for. We are a 1-bedroom family predominantly, and we are relatively flexible around when we go. Although this last trip we booked the week right before Thanksgiving at the 7-month mark, no problem. And it was available actually for, I think, another several weeks after that. So I think those would be my top 2 tips, right? Be flexible in when you go. Really, apart from just, June and then the main holidays, it's actually not that hard to get into Aulani at the 7-month window, as long as you're flexible on room type. You maybe budget a few more points to get an island garden view or an ocean view, and you should just be fine.
We need to go back. If there is one,
she's saying it now, ladies and gentlemen. I was saying we had to months ago, and she was like, meh.
I just don't know how we'll fit it in. Just when you listen to her
what I
talk
heard,
about,
what I heard was, we need to go back. That's what I heard.
I did say we.
And the good thing, Jeff, is there's not a theme park there, so we don't have to rope drop to close that.
I can sit by the pool for 6 straight days there and be just fine.
I'm good. I'll do it.
That's awesome. Carrie, also in mentioning the points that you have, did I catch it right? You have a guaranteed week?
Yes. Yeah. So our Riviera contract is a week 7 Resort View studio contract, although we don't intend to use it for the foreseeable future. So I was thinking long term when I bought our contract. My son is 8, about to turn 9. I'm thinking 10, 15 years from now, a week in February, maybe just me at Disney World sounds fantastic. So we really bought it for the long term. And also, with concerns about, there's all like the talk about Riviera and availability and what it's going to do long term. I just thought, hey, it's easy to get that guaranteed week written in. Let's just get it. And then we'll use it, for 10, 15 years from now, not right now.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And we may have to have you back for another show just talking about guaranteed weeks in general, because we do get a lot of people that have questions about that. And there's multiple strategies behind, why people choose to do a guaranteed week. Yours makes perfect sense. It's like, when do we plan to travel? And do we have concerns over availability down the road because of Riviera and the restrictions and all that kind of fun stuff? So I know you did plenty of research into all of that decision. So that's awesome.
She's the first person I've actually spoken to in real life that has a guaranteed week. So
what about in fake life?
We exist.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Fake life. Hey, I have a question for Carrie, just because I do love that subject that we talked about, that we definitely need to talk about it on a later show, is, convincing your other half, which, again, I get this. I've gotten this for 20 years, where there's almost always one person in the family that's all in, like guns blazing. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's not always the husband. It could be the flip side too. But what do you think that it was that finally convinced him? Because you said that you're the more, emotional, which I am too. But I mean, was it just like, how did you lay it out to him in terms of where someone who was like, we're not buying a timeshare, no way, it doesn't make sense, to all of a sudden now you've got multiple contracts and then you're going to be doing another one probably later on? What do you think it was that convinced him?
Good question. So I think the first thing is really knowing your spouse or knowing your partner and what will motivate them, or what is driving their concerns. And for me, I knew my husband is very analytical. He's an engineer by background. So the other thing I know about my husband is it takes multiple conversations to get him to agree to something. It's not like, let me just throw down this PowerPoint in front of you and walk away. So it took a period of a year, right, where he was like, he got into the idea, right, from that first trip at Aulani, where I said, hey, I think we really should pursue this. And it wasn't every day, right, that I was badgering him for a year, but picking the moments where
it's really
we're going to have him back on for another show, and we're going to get his version of this story.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get his take. But I knew that he cared about making the numbers work, right? So for all this concern about, what happens with the value of the contract, he wanted to make sure that, one, we were consistently going to go, and that, two, that there was enough flexibility in the system so that we could do different types of vacations if we wanted to. So I had to educate him on the rental process. So we used DC Rental Store actually as an example. I'd previously rented points, so I was able to tell him, hey, you can always do this if for 1 year we choose not to go to Disney World. It's so easy to rent points or to swap points and go somewhere else. And that really helped him. And then the final kind of thing involved in those PowerPoint presentations was a snippet of an Excel spreadsheet I made, basically showing the year-over-year cost, and then at what point our break even would be, and then at what point would we start seeing savings. And it's only a few years in, depending on the contract you purchase, especially on the resale side of things. And so once he saw that, he was like, oh, wow, it's only like, I think for us, it was like 7 years in with the Bay Lake Tower contract. My probably even was less than that. And he was like, well, of course, like, sure, why wouldn't we give this a shot and then make sure it works for us, knowing that, you can likely resell it down the road. Most people are able to, for a decent chunk of what you paid. Yeah. He was like, okay, let's go for it. So, I mean, obviously there's the emotion aspect. I think he's a great husband. He wants to make me happy, but the numbers had to make sense for him too.
I feel like the
That's
numbers were there as soon as you paid $1,100 a night for Lonnie. Like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
and I want
really
everybody to go
see
back
this
to-
value.
I want everybody to go back to listen to this once we're done. But Carrie's diabolical. She's got her husband. She's got him zoned in. She's got him figured out. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's great.
But like
know your spouse.
1,100, like 1,100 a night. How many nights were you there?
We only could afford 3, and that was hard. Was at $3,000, $3,300. I was like, how I want to stay at Aulani for more than 3 nights. This is actually kind of torture to only do 3 nights there.
Yeah.
And how am I gonna do this? Like that was the conversation. I think he was like, how many times are we realistically going to go back to Aulani? Well, like jokes on him, how many times we've gone back since. Like he's bought in now. Like he does love it. But we also like going other places too, right? So again, it was like knowing that we could rent out our points in off years was also something that he really held on to when considering buying into DVC.
That's awesome. That's great.
I wanted to thank you for sharing your personal story at the beginning too, and this is going to be hard to top. But I also like to ask if you had a favorite DVC moment or something, some kind of pixie dust that happened, or some kind of moment that made you go, sigh that relief when you wrote that check. Something that's just kind of like one of your favorite memories.
Sure. So we've only been members for just over a year. But I actually, and this is silly because it was the first time we used our contract, was actually only one night at the Grand Californian. And again, that was a property. I live so close to Disneyland. It never made sense for me to shell out the cash. I could never justify it in my head to pay the cash rates of the Grand Californian. And we were able to book one night. And that was the first time we used our points. And walking in and staying at the Grand, anyone who's been to the Grand Californian knows just what a breathtakingly beautiful resort that is. Walked in and was like, oh my gosh, I get to do this for the next 40 plus years. Like I am committed. I know, we are here for the long haul, and I have so many years of memories ahead of me. It was just it was only one night, but it was enough to be like, wow, like this is amazing that I don't have to stress about when I'm next going to go back to a Disney property, because I know what's going to happen within the next few months. And so just that first night was a really special experience.
That's awesome. My first stay at the Grand Cal was kind of the same way. We were down in California for a dance competition at the Anaheim Hilton, which we all know how awesome that place is. But
Been there.
Amy and Tatum had straight dance all the time, and we were standing in line at Soarin', and I'm on my phone booping, and I looked, and there was a night tomorrow, and I went and stayed there by myself while they were still. We had 2 hotels essentially for one night, but I had to check that list. It is such a beautiful resort and so much fun to just be. You talk about being in the bubble. We talk about being in the bubble here, but being in the bubble in Disneyland is a much smaller, much more intimate bubble to be a part of.
Yeah, and I also love, as Jeff said, the fact that you shared that personal reason for purchasing into Disney Vacation Club, because so many people that we hear from talk about it making financial sense or not, but it also is an emotional purchase as well. We know that our dear friend Jeff purchased for, not this Jeff, but another Jeff, purchased for similar emotional reasons, where it was like, life is short. How many times am I going to be able to come back here? This is that guarantee that, I get to come back and see this magical place year after year. And so it's great to, you've crunched the numbers from both sides. It hits the emotional target, and then for your husband, it hits the financial numbers as well, for sure. So,
and I think too, that's what Carrie said so perfectly too, is that it goes back to when you have Disney Vacation Club. And again, I've had mine for over 20 years, that members will tell you that yes, the trips themselves are fantastic and they're awesome, but honestly, almost as good or sometimes even better is just the fact that you're going away. So everybody knows their countdown, whether it's going to be a year from today, 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, 24 hours. It doesn't matter. It's knowing that you're going away are the things that help you, get through life. I've said it on like past shows too, which is, it's easy to go away on vacation when everything is hunky dory. That's great. But sometimes the times you need a vacation more than any other time is when things are not going so well. So I think that's when members really, really appreciate the fact that, you know what, I've got this. I've got these points. What do we want to do with them? Everything's already paid for. We're checking out. Our room bill is zero. And you have that trip, no matter where it is, to know that it's already paid for. It's already covered. You don't have to stress to say, oh my God, it's so much more expensive than it was last year and all of this nonsense. It's just your points, and knowing you're going away, that to me, even though we go, for one night all the time down the street to Disney World, I look forward to that. I know that I'm going to the boardwalk on December 26th when my son turns 21. We booked the boardwalk so we could be there on his 21st birthday. So we know that that's coming. So Carrie, yeah, you summed it up perfectly, is that you have these trips coming for not just 1 year, but for decades to come, which is awesome.
Yep.
I was
Carrie,
raised with.
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, Derek, I was raised with this philosophy that you always should have another vacation booked, because the planning, I think for so many DVC members, Disney fans, the planning is the best part of the trip, or just as good as the trip itself. And so I was raised with that philosophy. It's one I really live by. And that, you're right, that helps you through, stressful periods at work, stressful personal times, knowing you've got something on the horizon to look forward to. And DVC just kind of seals that in, right? And because you have committed financially to going, that you are going to keep going. So it kind of ties the two together really nicely.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so speaking of that, what do you have on the horizon that you're excited about?
Okay, so we are staying at our home resorts for the first time ever in February. We immediately booked. One of the other things I didn't say at the beginning was, when we chose our home resorts, we chose with the intention of staying at all of the DVC resorts eventually. So I know some people pick their home resort because they love it and they want to go back to that home resort every year. We picked them with the intention of, no, like, one of the beauties of DVC is that there's so much variety. And so we've utilized the variety over the last year. And it was actually my husband who was like, we've owned this for over a year now and we've done 4 trips. Like, maybe it's time to actually stay at our home resorts. So we have a split stay coming up in February. And we're staying first at Bay Lake Tower for a few nights, and then we're going to move to Riviera and so get to experience those. So
Derek will be really excited to come see you at Bay Lake.
He loves that property. Absolutely loves
Maybe I can play on it, Derek. I'll try. We'll see. I know.
Stop it. Carrie said it perfectly. California Carrie said it perfectly. That's the great thing about DVC. It's something for everybody.
Yeah. Can you make a PowerPoint about Bay Lake Tower for us, Carrie, please? We're going to need that. Carrie, you mentioned earlier as well that you definitely wanted that 150 direct purchase. And what were the key things that made you want that direct contract? Because we're very transparent always that I think most members are going to become hybrid in some way in their life. So what was the driving things that were like, yes, we definitely want to start with that direct?
Interesting, I should say. We actually bought resale first. We can talk about that. And then a month later, or as soon as it closed, we then purchased direct. So but we went in with the intention of becoming hybrid within a space of a few months. So we were pretty strategic in that decision. But the reason why we knew we wanted at least 150 direct points, a couple of things. One, because I'm such a local to Disneyland, and there are 2 fantastic lounges. There's one real lounge, and then there's the place at California Adventure you can go pop in and say hello to the DVC cast members at. I wanted those member perks. For Disneyland DVCers, we've had a lot of special perks in the last few months in terms of special parade viewings and other things. And because I go to the park so often, that was important to me to just strategically have access to those. And then the second thing was access to the unrestricted resorts. So I knew, or to all the resorts. So I knew I wanted a certain pool of my points to be able to use at all resorts going forward. But I didn't feel like I needed all of my points to be unrestricted or be direct, because there are so many great options within the original 14. So we felt like that was a happy medium. And I think with any add-ons, we probably will just go the resale route, because for now, those 150, it's like, great, whatever comes next, we know we can utilize those, but then let's continue to get the cost savings on the resale side for any future points.
You mentioned the lounges in Disneyland, and I would just like to say that we visited both lounges when we were out there last week. The one in DCA, though, DVC Dan, our dear friend, went in the door.
It was closed.
It was closed, but the door was unlocked. And he goes in.
We didn't know it was closed.
We didn't. He goes in, he walks around, and then he comes back out. We then go around to the front and see the sign that says it's closed. But like right at 10:30 or whatever time it was, the sign changes to open. It's still closed. There's no one there.
Nobody around.
We also thought we were there to get in line for the parade viewing stuff, but it was Sunday, and that is only on Saturday. Obviously, we've just lost track of time and everything, but there was nobody there. Absolutely no, except for Dan. You could come meet DVC Dan.
It's too bad Derek wasn't with us, because we could have just set up a resale shop inside the DVC lounge. They would have been really happy with it. He could have been slinging contracts like crazy.
You could have sat there for a good hour at least, Derek, or maybe all of Sunday. I don't know. Maybe DVC guides. I will say that I did not see any guides working at any booths or anything throughout the week.
Right.
Like all of the booths were empty. Amy and I stuck our head in the preview center area at Grand Cal, and it was not necessarily a welcoming experience, I would say.
Yeah, so Dan and Jeff did have a good experience. They went over to the DVC area at the Disneyland Villas. Obviously, it's an actively selling resort, but they were very nice. They gave them a lot of like really cool mementos, and Paul and I, we just kind of stuck our heads in on the way to our room at Grand Cal, and I was just like, "Hi, do you have any model rooms here?" And they looked at me and they're like, "Bottles?"
It's that West Virginia accent that you have.
It could be my own fault. I said, no.
To that point,
models.
and we don't need to
Derek's
go
the
into
one
the
with
weeds
the
about. To that point, we don't need to go into the weeds about my experience, but I will say I kind of feel like the West Coast Disneyland folks still kind of are confused about DVC, even in the hotel itself. I kind of had a lot of miscommunications this weekend, and it just kind of made it clear that probably some more training needs to be set forth with how they deal with us weirdos.
There's definitely a very little comprehension of the properties that are out here on the East Coast, I feel like, and they know a whole lot about Disneyland Hotel and the Tower. But you start talking about, I got into a conversation at the Starview Lounge with the lady that showed me the model room there, and we got into a conversation about the cabins, and it just snowballed very quickly from there. And I was just like, where's the escape button? I need to push that right now to get out of this conversation. But yeah, I would agree. But
Yeah. But anyway, when I cleared up that I had said model rooms, they were just like, no.
And then they were like, are you a member? And we were like, yeah. But normally that's where they're like, oh, well, come in and get like your welcome home bag or whatever. And it was just like, oh, okay. Have a good one. See you later.
Yeah, it was a very weird disconnect. And like you said, none of the booths were manned. None of the lounges were manned. It's kind of like just a free-for-all out there. It's a very different
They
DVC
need you,
experience.
Derek.
But on that note, Disneyland is amazing.
Yes.
And we had an awesome time. We got to spend some time with Carrie. She joined us Sunday evening.
And Friday.
Oh,
And for dinner, yeah.
Friday for a little bit at Jazz Kitchen.
She blew powdered sugar all over the table like Jeff did. With some
First
beignets.
impression of me.
Yeah, we got to hang out at Disneyland. We got to ride a couple rides with her. So that was really nice. As people who live near or basically at Disney World, it just felt really refreshing to go over to the West Coast. So I'm curious, Carrie, as someone who basically lives at Disneyland, like how do you feel different when you come over to Disney World?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's just that experience that you had last weekend, right? I think for us, Disney World is not my backyard the way Disneyland is. So, Disneyland, I think, not that you can become complacent about Disney, but it's always been there, especially since I grew up in Orange County. I've thousands of times I've been to Disneyland. So I know that place like the back of my hand. When I go to Disney World, even though I'm now going, more than I used to, it's still very special because, you know, you have the planning and you're like, okay, what am I going to fit in on this trip? What am I going to save for a future trip? I don't know where all the bathrooms are located the way I do at Disneyland. And I'm sure that will change as we have been members for longer. But there is something really special about going to somewhere that just isn't in your backyard every day, right? On the plus side, like I know I'm very lucky having Disneyland, being so close to Disneyland. And I know most members don't have that option that close, but it is really special when, you know, I get to go to World. We also want to go to Vero Beach and Hilton Head and have those new experiences, and not be such a local about it and get to experience the new things.
So in terms of Disney Vacation Club, you're probably one of the newest members that we've actually talked to on this show. What advice would you give to someone considering to join the club? Like, what is that? What are those things that you've either learned in this past year or learned in researching that are those things that are really going to be the things that someone need to focus on if they're really considering this?
Sure. So I think the first thing to do is really use the community that we have at DVC Fan. So you can find my posts. I agonized over what to purchase, posted multiple times in the group, and the group was so supportive and helpful in helping me figure out what I wanted to ultimately purchase. And then I read so many posts around like how to make the right decision. But I think the top few things that you really should think about are, you know, one, yes, there's the direct versus resale. I think sometimes people get into their heads a little bit and feel like it's an either or it's like, I must make this decision right now. And this is for life. You know, your life is long. So you have the option to make a decision right now and then change a few years from now. You can always add on, you can always sell a contract. So don't get so obsessed with what is the perfect right decision for here and now, because your life will change too over time. And then how you vacation will change. So, you know, I say basically, if you're considering it and you've run the numbers and it feels like it makes sense to you, jump in. Don't be like I did. Going back, we didn't even talk about the research I did before I got my husband on board and how long I really thought about it myself. I would say when you get to a comfortable spot, just do it, and then you can always iterate from there. That's the first thing I would say. I think the second thing is, really do think about, are you the type of person who really cares about your home resort availability and you are always going to want to stay at your home resort? Or are you somebody like me who's more willing to just kind of bounce around and try different resorts out? And then if you're that category, I wouldn't worry so much about the 7-month availability, because there are way more options than I thought there would be at 7 months. I think sometimes people get, again, really in their head about, oh my gosh, there's not going to be anything available at 7 months. Most times out of the year, you kind of have your choice of where to stay. So if you're flexible, like there's so many different options available to you as a DVC member. Again, I would say just kind of don't overanalyze the situation. Make your decisions and then jump in, knowing that you can always change it up, later down the line.
Great advice.
Absolutely.
Great advice. And for everyone out there, Carrie is available for $49.95. She will build your family a PowerPoint presentation. So that's why
I have to raise my rates, Derek.
Worst ideas have been presented. Worst ideas have been. So there's a business opportunity there for sure. For sure.
Hey, I have a question for Carrie, kind of building off that, which again, Carrie, you nailed it perfectly, because I think I mentioned it on maybe a show a couple of weeks ago, is like the people that look into DVC now have such an advantage, because, for folks like us 20 years ago, I don't even think there was like an internet. There was nothing. So now you've got all these groups and DVC Fan and all these fantastic places where you can watch room tour videos and everything else. So that is huge. I have a question for you, which I'm curious, because we know we're doing a show like this and we all talk about, DVC is the best thing in the world. It'll change your life and your kids' lives and your neighbors' lives. It's perfect. Have you experienced anything at all so far being a DVC member that made you think, you know what, that's not quite what I thought it was going to be? Not that it's super negative, which you can share, but I'm just curious, is there anything that I thought it was going to be this, but you know what? It's okay, but it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be.
Being on this show is the answer to that question.
Okay, Okay, this isn't a negative, but obvious. This is a huge positive. I never saw myself being a DVC fan contributor when I bought the contracts 2 years ago. Never. I have a close friend who watches the show. Close friends who watch the show, and when I texted her and said, "Okay, I guess I'm writing for DVC fan now," never in my wildest dreams did I think that buying a DVC contract was going to lead to this. And it's been, and also just the power of community, right? Like never. Yeah. I was so happy to get to meet Paul and Amy and Jeff and everyone else over the weekend. Like never imagined that is where my life in the last year and a half would lead to. And that's been spectacular. In terms of like surprises, maybe I don't like to say negative, neutral surprises. Right. I think I probably spend a little bit too much time online at different forums. And so I do think I was surprised by the amount of negativity that can be out there around a product that we all know and love. This is like random, but the other thing that was surprising was just around how much people nitpick, right? To me, again, I said I bought my DVC contracts to have so many memories and things like, just wonderful trips. I'm not going to nitpick like a baseboard being slightly out of whack. Yep. And that was surprising to me. But luckily, like I would say, 95+% of people on the internet are really supportive and wonderful. So I would just say ignore that noise. I try not to. But that was a little surprising. Like we've all purchased this very expensive product. Let's go use it and enjoy it. So
absolutely. I've said for years that the DVC community, the Disney community is a double-edged sword. They are the absolute best fans and the absolute worst fans because we love the product so much. And Walt, I think, originally started this because he'd come into the living room and he would share what's next and do all these big presentations. He would love PowerPoint if he were alive in this day and age, but it kind of gave us a little bit of ownership in the company, we feel like, even though we don't. Yeah. And so when they change something that we don't agree with or they make a decision that we don't agree with, man, we can take something we love and turn on it so quickly. So it's hard to turn out that noise sometimes, but I see what you're saying for sure.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, right, it keeps the Disney brand and products really strong, right? We hold them to such a high bar that I try to look at it from a place that people, like you said, Jeff, really care about the Disney brand. We all love it so much. So I try to assume positive intent, but sometimes let's lighten up a little bit and just have a little more fun with a product we've spent so much money on.
Sometimes the curmudgeon comes out.
Yeah.
Jeff bought this on Sunday when we were at DCA, and we called it like his little. We called it his shoulder curmudgeon. So anytime he's going to.
When I'm about to go on a rant, he's going to go on my shoulder, so everybody knows. Carrie, I have one follow-up question that has nothing to do with anything, but I need a tiebreaker because we were doing while we were at Disneyland. Who did it better, Disney World or Disneyland? We'd ride a ride that both parks have. And then I'd take a vote with the group. We're evenly split on one, and you have to be the tiebreaker. So sorry to put you on the spot, but I need you to tell me which park did it better, Walt Disney World or Disneyland when it comes to Haunted Mansion.
Oh, I knew that was going to be the one.
Oh, it's so easy.
You don't know. You haven't been there since you were a fetus. Now, I want to specify not the late layover, not the holiday layover, the original Haunted Mansion.
The original. I always default to Disneyland doing it better, and my reason is that is the one that has the actual elevator, has that is Walt's park, and that was one of his original ideas. If you go look at the history of what he wanted to put into Disneyland, he wanted to put some sort of haunted type attraction into the park. But okay, it's kind of a cop out. I actually prefer Disney World's version. So I'm changing my answer. I'm going to say Disney World's is better, but I have a rich appreciation for Disneyland's. Disney World has the extra scenes. It is a more, I enjoy the Disney World version more than the Disneyland version, but I also really appreciate the history of the Disneyland version. So
Told you. No
That's
reason
the
for me to
only
go.
one that was a tie. That was the only one that was close. So
how did everyone vote? I know,
voted-
Paul, you
me and these two were Disney World. Jeff and
Yeah.
Dan preferred Disneyland, and basically DVC Dan said almost verbatim what you said because of the elevator. I'm like,
They were so. It was their
elevators in
first time
hotels.
though, and again, it's that East Coast West Coast concept where
Yep.
when we got in there and the elevator made its like first jolt, Jeff and Dan were like, "Oh, this is a real elevator. We're going somewhere," and it's like. To experience that for the first time. I remember the first time that I did it, and if it had been the first time I was riding that, my answer would probably be different. Now, you throw in the holiday overlay, there is no competition.
Right,
This
absolutely.
is not a competitive event.
yeah,
although I mean, as a Disneyland local, the holiday overlay irritates me because it is 4 months out of the year that it is not Haunted Mansion. I love it. I love the holiday. I love Haunted Mansion holiday. Love it. Hate that it's a third of the year that Haunted Mansion is taken over by it. So I have mixed feelings year after year. I love seeing the new gingerbread house, but also sometimes I just want to ride the OG Haunted Mansion. And I'm like, oh, great. I got to wait till February to do it. And it's September, So I have mixed feelings about the overlay.
as a follow up to that, how many months out of the year do you figure Matterhorn is closed? Is it like 11?
Do you think they're going to get rid of it?
No, I don't think they're going to get rid of it.
Thank you.
But I do think, I do think it is closed more often than it is not. That is how it feels as a Disneyland local. And let's be honest, it's jerky and it's not the best. It's a good back adjustment every time you go on it.
I
So
love it. That's
Cancel
so
that
sad.
chiropractor appointment that month.
Would I even be able to fit in it or no?
good question.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can fit in
think so.
Space Mountain at Disney World. You can fit in the
Sure.
Matterhorn.
Yeah, if I like
He has to
lather
look
up
through
my
his
sides-
knees, but he can fit.
Yeah, if I lather up my sides with butter, I can slip into the car there in Space Mountain. And then
I mean,
shake
you
around
won't be
like-
comfortable or feel safe whatsoever, but I'm sure you will pass all their checks. There's a minimum height. I don't know that there's a maximum.
Man, I'm booking that trip to Disneyland right now. You sold me. Sounds good.
Oh, it's
Okay.
closed.
Carrie, this is the part of the show which we all get nervous for because we've peppered you with questions for the past hour, but we give you the opportunity to ask us some question to know a little bit more about us, like we have learned a little bit about you. So if you could ask the four of us any question, what would that be?
Oh gosh, any question I want. I'm going to keep it DVC related for this one, but I'm curious because I've been giving this a lot of thought recently. We know Lakeshore Lodge is coming. What beyond that we don't know. But if you could build or design any DVC, what would it be?
Hold on, let me pull up the PowerPoint presentation. Amy's got pictures galore of this. Doghouse Lodge. What was it called?
Oh,
Canine.
Canine Kingdom.
Lodge.
did we have a show about this that I'm blanking on?
We did, and we used
Okay,
AI.
hold on.
It's been a while,
Edit
though.
this out.
It's been a while.
It has
No.
been a while.
No,
You
I
can
like
edit.
the
I will give
question.
you a new question.
Maybe our
No, it's a good
answers
question because
changed.
I think I would have changed my answer.
Yeah, Jeff, what's your
Okay.
answer?
I want a DVC resort in Disney World that functions like the Grand Cal, where you have entrance into a park. I don't even necessarily care which park it goes into. It seems like building Villains Land with a Villains themed hotel next door is a no-brainer. Something at Epcot where you can enter the World Showcase directly through your own private entrance. Even Hollywood Studios is a Star Wars themed. They missed that opportunity when they turned Star Cruiser into more offices. Even a walkway from Animal Kingdom, I would
Right.
accept, but something that gives us that special. I call it a secret door. As we were leaving the other night to go back and change clothes and come back to the park, Paul was like, "Okay, bye. I'm going to the Grand Cal," and walk through this little thing, and the rest of us had to walk through the turnstiles like peasants. That's one thing that I would really like to see out here at Disney World. And with 23 hotels, I'm just shocked that they haven't done that yet.
For anyone that's a listener to our friends over at the Disney Dish podcast, Len Testa and Jim Hill, they actually recently on a show were talking about how they're about to do some road construction on that area around Coronado Springs and Blizzard Beach to actually open up an 100+ acre parcel of land, I believe it is, in that area, which could actually be a backdoor into Hollywood Studios, I think it is. So your wish, Jeff, of having some entrance that some resort gives to a theme park, I think that within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see that become a reality out here.
Or
No, it's not going to happen.
adding a DVC tower
Well, that's the
to
thought.
Coronado Springs.
That's the thought about this property, though, is that it's an easy straight shot from where the Skyliner currently is. So rather than actually have to do a offshoot or something, they could somehow just tie it into the existing line. I don't know. Go listen
Even,
to them.
like,
They're wonderful
we
friends.
We talked about this with Jeff and Dan walking in through downtown Disney from the Disneyland Hotel. Even the fact that you can get on the monorail there and go right into the park from outside of the park. I mean, it's just something that, I don't know, I could talk forever, but I think that's a miss for Disney World. There's so many opportunities to include those hotels into the parks themselves.
Yeah. I will go next and tell you that my answer has changed, but this answer will never come to fruition, I don't think, because I think they've given up on concepts like this.
Oh no, I wonder if you're going to say the same thing I am.
I think putting a new resort on a Caribbean island.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say.
We're married for some reason, apparently.
I want an all-inclusive because
Ooh.
I love Alani.
How much are those points?
Okay, it doesn't have to be all-inclusive. But what I was thinking is I love Alani. I love the idea of a relaxing beach vacation. I love Vero, but I want something tropical that's accessible. I want blue water and not have to go clear out to Alani.
We recently, as part of our California trip, Amy and I did a 4-night cruise that left out of Long Beach, went to Catalina Island for one of its stops. And Carrie, I know there's a shuttle that goes there daily. Do you know how long it takes to get there by that shuttle?
Yeah, it depends. There's a couple different boat options, but like 75 to 90 minutes. If you take
that's not bad at all. See, I'm wondering if there's some island that they could build on that would be like that 75 to 90 minute range from one of the Florida ports where they could get you there. You could then get off, stay at this Disney Vacation Club property, and then, get on that shuttle on the day you're coming home and come back.
I think there are Bahamas islands that you can take like a ferry from very, very south of Florida. So yeah, I love that idea. I want a Caribbean DVC.
Yeah.
Well, and I know Virgin Voyages, they were testing this for a while. I don't know if it's still going. I'll have to check. But you had the option when you booked your Virgin Voyage, because they only do short cruises out of Miami. You could go to their Bimini Beach Club island. They don't own any property there. They lease it from, I can't remember the hotel chain. But you had the option of getting off your cruise, staying there, and getting on the next cruise that came in 3 or 4 days later. So, I mean, it's not like this is an unheard of situation. They just need to buy up the property and get it done.
Sounds
Pipe
amazing.
dream.
Derek, what's your pick?
Oh, mine hasn't changed. It's still at Walt Disney World. It's a Disney Greek Isles resort. I think it would be amazing. I think it'd be beautiful. I think it'd be perfect for Disney Vacation Club to do it, because I think you have these buildings. Just imagine them. Look like Santorini, the white buildings with the blue roofs. You could have great restaurants. You could put it around Bay Lake. I don't know. I just think that would be a slam dunk. So that's still my choice.
That's awesome. Carrie, do you have an answer to your own question?
So, okay. So I'm torn. I was thinking between like a new resort at Disney World versus Paul and Amy, your idea. That was option one, was a Caribbean island Like I would buy so many points that my husband, I don't know, hopefully wouldn't divorce me. But like, I forget the PowerPoints. Like I would be all in on that. And
Just buy them, ask for
to
forgiveness later.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's pro tip there. But actually, I was wondering, with I don't know how much land is behind Magic Kingdom with Villains Land opening up. Do you all know how much land is back there? Anyway. Assuming there might be land
a decent
back
chunk,
there.
yeah.
There's
a
tons.
decent. Yeah, that's what I figured. Right, I was looking at the map, and I would love a Villains themed resort tied in. We could go with Jeff's entrance into the park. In 2045, when Villains Land finally opens, we can get a DVC resort that's Villains themed and, goes right into the back. If there was a back entrance to the Magic Kingdom, I would love that.
Yeah.
So
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
But anyway, do you want me to give you
Carrie?
one idea we haven't talked about?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, sorry to cut you off, Paul.
No, you're fine.
My other question was going to be if you could travel anywhere not Disney related. So where is number one on your travel bucket list? Not Disney related in any shape or form.
Norway.
I ask this question to these guys all the time.
I know.
These friends of mine.
I want
my
to go to
favorite
Norway so bad. And part of it is Disney that's made me want to go there. Just like being in the Norway pavilion, seeing Frozen, just really made me want to see that Nordic area. So that's mine.
Mine is
one.
one that we actually are planning to go to for my 40th birthday in 2027, which will be, I want to go on a German river cruise to the Christmas markets.
Oh.
So Amy is terrible at surprises. Said she was going to keep it a surprise.
I was going
Did
to
not.
try for one whole year because it's 2 years out. And I lasted 2 days.
Yeah. I'm very bad at this though too, because I ask leading questions, and if
He
you
does.
play into it, I'm going to figure it out pretty quickly. But yeah, that has been the top of my list for a while, to go to Germany, experience the Christmas markets, just be in that area. For a long time, my answer was Australia until I learned about large spiders and sandworms.
The TikTok sandworms scared him away.
Yeah, so I'm good. I'm good on an Australia.
I'd
now.
like to go
So,
there.
Jeff?
Tahiti, Fiji, somewhere where I can be in an overwater bungalow in a swimming suit 90% of the time. That's where I really, really want to go.
They have them right down the street at the Polynesian. You could literally
You can get in the water.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, no, don't do that. There's a plunge pool.
Derek, where do you want to travel?
Hold on, let me let my dog out. There, well, go. So I would say
traveling right now.
right now, I would say that something that we've talked about all the time that we would love to be able to do, because when I was working for Disney Vacation Club and Disney Cruise Line, we got to go almost everywhere, all over the world, including Norway, all those places. One place I haven't been that my wife and I would love to go to, especially because it's our 30th wedding anniversary coming up, is Lake Como in Italy. I've always wanted to go there.
I've heard.
We've watched YouTube videos up the wazoo. Every year, we always go, this is our year. We're going to plan it. Something happens. So you're like, okay, well, maybe next year we'll do it. But Lake Como in Italy, we'd go there with our friends, George Clooney and his wife, which we're really, really tight with. That would be amazing to me. I would love that. And if we can't do that, we'll just go to Gatorland.
There's a Lake Como add-on to our river cruise, and 2 years in advance, and it's the only one that's already sold out.
Oh, wow.
Did we buy it?
People must love it. No, it's like 4,000 extra a person.
Nuts. Well, we tried. Carrie, I feel like you're the most well-traveled of all of us since you lived actually in a foreign country. Where is your dream destination?
So we have a trip coming up to my dream destination, which now will soon no longer be a dream, but we are going to Japan, which has been on my list since I was a little girl. We're going in November. We're going to go to Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea. I just booked the Hotel Miracosta at Tokyo Disney Sea, and I'm like still pinching myself that what's actually happening. But that trip will soon be upon us. So my other trip is completely in the opposite direction. I really want to go to Antarctica.
Yes.
I have wanted to go to Antarctica. Yeah, like I have friends that have gone. I actually have a friend who works on an expedition cruise. So he goes to Antarctica fairly regularly. His photos are the most beautiful, like just breathtaking pictures in the world. And I think National Geographic might be doing cruises to Antarctica now. Like
they do.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, there's like the Disney sort of tie-in as well.
Yeah.
But we're waiting. My son is about to turn 9. We're waiting till he's a little bit older, and it's expensive. So we're going to be saving
expensive
for a while. But that is number 1 on my bucket list right now.
See how many people want to go to Antarctica?
We should charter our own boat.
This is
Amy Krieger and I have talked about this before too. Like,
yes,
that's the one cruise that just seems so hard to obtain. But I want to go so bad. My dad and I had the opportunity, and I'm so mad that it didn't happen because it was like $1 gajillion. But Jimmy Buffett actually chartered a boat and was going to do a concert on the shores of Antarctica so that he could say he did a concert on all 7 continents. He canceled it for obvious reasons, but my dad and I seriously looked at the money. It was going to be like $18,000 a person, I think.
Oh my gosh.
That's stupid.
But we seriously, it would have been because he was going to do concerts on the boat and everything else. And you know me, I'm a huge Buffett fan. But yeah, that would have been amazing.
We can make that much in a live stream with you in your bathing suit in Tahiti in like 10 minutes. So,
I mean, I'm not against it, but I think you're overshooting the budget there.
Never know.
Antarctica is a great answer, and we can all plan together. Let's go.
Leave me out.
Derek's like, nope.
Derek don't like this cold.
Not a chance.
Leave me out. I think it sounds really cool, and yes, it sounds like a quote unquote bucket list. I guarantee you, 2 days in of wearing like a snowsuit nonstop while in a boat, looking at ice, I'll be like, okay, can I go? Can I go to Lake Como now? No, thank you.
I just want to see Derek in a snowsuit.
It's been a joy having you here tonight. We will definitely have to have you on another show in the near future because I think you bring a lot of good perspectives, both having a young kid, being on the West Coast, being someone that's a little bit further away that does have to travel all the way here to Walt Disney World, where we do talk a lot about Walt Disney World because that's the bulk of Disney Vacation Club, but there is some on the West Coast. There is some in the middle of the ocean in Aulani and in other destinations. So it's great to have a perspective of someone else joining us. So thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the conversation.
Thank you. It was so fun. Happy to come back anytime. Excited to keep watching.
Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC show. We're all going to go and, I don't know.
Record our other 2
shows, I guess. So
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
I don't know where I'm going anytime. You know that, Jeff. Hey, like this, subscribe to the things, push the buttons, do all that kind of stuff. I guess I never really say that all that often, but Jeff just had an earthquake, so we're going to check that out in a second. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next Monday.
I'm going to put my snowsuit on. See you later.
Bye, Derek.